The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
We're starting a podcast right now. I'm sitting in my dressing room with Booker T. Well, you two-time WWE Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Two-time Hall of Famer. I'm working on 3, actually. I'm trying to get up to 5 so I can keep the slogan going.
Always got to one-up me. And you got both of your rings on.
Look here, it's a requirement. It's in the contract. I don't know, I forgot you hadn't gotten 2 rings yet, so you don't know what it feels like.
I'm probably never going to know what it feels like. I'm just happy to have my one. Hey, man, we got to get something straight. I've been wanting you on the podcast for a long time. We talked on telephone, but that don't count. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we came down here to Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
I guess they called you and said, hey, we're going to do a Raw reunion. They called me and said, we're going to do a Raw reunion. So I immediately texted you and said, we got to do it man-to-man, face-to-face. Here we are.
Yeah.
So we was going to do it on Sunday. And I was like, no, was it Sunday or Monday?
Well, it was Sunday. You thought it was Sunday, but I couldn't do it to Monday. But you see, my thing was, I was like, wait a minute. I know we got the Raw reunion. I know Steve called me. I go do the podcast. And my thing was, I'm a made man. I come in on the day of well, I'm just saying, I'm thinking, well, Steve, he's a made man too. He's, he's high up on the card. He's in the main event slot. I say they're going to bring Steve in on the day of, just, out of respect alone, because they know he got other businesses going on.
Yo, but here was my deal, man. I said, man, this is a free ride down to Tampa. So I talked to Hogan. I said, I normally see Book. So I already had him hooked, and I said, you and me are going to talk.
Yeah.
And so here we are. But I had the day messed up so that, anyways, because here's the way I am. You'd already agreed to do the podcast, but I was like, okay, man, I don't want to sweat the guy. So on Sunday, you go, I'm going to get in at 11:45. I'll come straight to your room. So I didn't hear nothing from Booker. And so about 1 o'clock, 1:30, I said, I'm just going to go eat lunch. So I ate lunch and went back to my room. About 3:30, I said, man, I finally got to sweat him now because hey, what's up? And so I texted him, Book. I said, we still good for today? He texts me back, no, man, it's Monday. I'm in Las Vegas covering the fight. So I wasted my whole day because I'm too stupid to get the correct time. So it's on me. It was never your fault.
You know what? I take a little bit of responsibility. But I tell you what, though, it was sweet out there in Vegas, man.
You like Vegas?
You know what? It was my first time actually being a part of that whole boxing experience. Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman. I got out there on Wednesday, got a chance to do the Hall of Fame radio from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's big fight on Saturday night, man. And I tell you, it was 110 degrees out there, but it was amazing, man, to actually be a part of that and then watch Manny Pacquiao at 40 years old go out there and represent the older establishment out there. It was awesome. But my thing is this, man. I don't know if you saw the fight, but Manny Pacquiao looked like he was 20 years old in this fight, man.
Well, how did you get clearance to get on Radio Row with all those cats, and how was that for you? Were you nervous? I mean, like the people say, well, he's a pro wrestler. He don't fit out here. This is boxing. But as you always say, you've covered the pugilist sports forever.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, man. I've been loving boxing forever. I got the job with ESPN. They flew me out. I got the chance to do, Radio Row. Got a chance to, interview Freddie Roach, Leonard Ellaby, Danny Garcia. It was awesome, man. Got a chance to, hang out with Mikey Garcia for a minute. And one thing, those guys, they've been seeing me at fights for so many years. And now, to actually become an insider and get inside and, hang out, from that perspective, man, I tell you, it was awesome. I got a couple more fights, September, November coming up as well. And I'm looking to be out in L.A. and out in Vegas again, hanging out. But this is the transition, man. We talk about it all the time as far as talking about young wrestlers, as far as going, getting in this business. And let me cut that off. That's
Booker T's phone went off. That means he owes me a beer.
Probably my wife calling right there.
Standard operating procedure. Married Charmel in 2005. I got it right here in my notes. I'm prepared like a mug.
What is in that book, man?
Dude, I got everything. I got your whole life story right here.
Well, okay, give me what you got. What kind of questions you got?
Oh, no. First, I got to ask you about how was it to talk to Freddie Roach? Okay, trainer par excellence. Who used to say that?
I tell you.
Could you understand the language he's speaking?
Oh, man. I mean, Freddie actually, he's going into some kind of remission, actually, with his Parkinson disease. He's actually, I don't know if it's a cure, but it's whatever it is, it's stopping it from progressing from where it is right now.
Is he still training people?
Yeah, he's still training. Yeah, he was Manny Pacquiao's trainer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he actually he gave.
But how was it to talk to him? I mean, like, do you understand all the technical lingo?
I did an interview with him actually, and it's going to be up on the radio here sometime this week, so the people can actually go to Hall of Fame and check it out. Freddie Roach is he's here. He's still here with us, and he's doing very, very well. If you watch him and Manny Pacquiao in the ring training, you would say, man, this guy had missed a beat. That's how good he is right now. That's how well he's doing. So it was awesome actually interviewing him. Leonard Ellaby, who's actually one of the guys who's been in the business for a long time, who's pretty much Al Heyman's right hand man. The brother had some shades, man. They had to be $10,000 just to shade slow. But it was awesome actually. It was cool. I hung out with Jerry Cooney the whole time I was there as well, and I did his podcast, and he asked me a few questions, and Jerry was like, wait a minute. I don't need to say anything. You know what I mean? You know just as much as I do, so it's actually pretty cool to actually hang with these guys, but be knowledgeable enough to actually know what's going on.
Dude, is boxing making a resurgence? Because it seems like the business of sports entertainment, as they call it now, I call it pro wrestling, seems to be a resurgence in that business. But I go back, and you and me are about the same age, because I kind of fell off, and I got more into the MMA stuff. Thomas Hitman Hearns, Sugar Ray, Marvelous Marvin Hagler,
Duran, all of them.
Roberto Duran, Hector Macho Camacho. Of course, Ali was in the heavyweight division. That was a little bit before, but like all of those guys in my childhood were the guys I look up to. But it seemed like the characters kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
And I know guys are still highly skilled, if not more skilled than ever. But it just seemed like, to me, it fell down a little bit on the radar. Has it not? Because it maintains these guys doing crazy numbers on the pay-per-view.
I'm going to tell you, 1990, I think a shift happened in 1990 because that's when mixed martial arts, came on the scene. And when mixed martial arts came on the scene, I think the wrestling business started teetering off, as well as the boxing start teetering off, because just say, for instance, an 18-year-old kid get out of school and he ain't got a job and he don't want to go work at McDonald's, but he can fight. You know what I mean? So he find his way inside the octagon. And for a period of 10 to 15 years, we lost so many young, kids that would have been in the wrestling, to that, you know what I mean? So I think that's what happened, more important than anything, as well as, you got this promoter, and this promoter. All of them got their own thing going on, and none of them want their fighters to fight each other. That right there is bad for business as well. So, that right there, made the fight game, teeter off. And then, HBO, they got out of the fight game. So you saw the fight game go, man, what's going to happen? But all of a sudden, the resurgence of boxing, started coming back because of Al Heyman and PBC, Fox Sports 1. And then you got Top Rank over here with Bob Arum. And then you got this new group, DAZN, just popped up, and they doing all kind of crazy numbers, man. And they put so much into the promotion and gave Canelo Alvarez, I don't know, a $50 million contract or something like that just to come on board, and they're buying fighters like crazy. I don't know where they get this money from, man, but it's definitely crazy time for boxing and the resurgence of it. And I think right now boxing is in a better place than it's been in a very, very long time. And just a result of what happened this Saturday night with Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman, MGM Grand Garden Arena, man, it wasn't a seat in the house, man. And the electricity in the building was unbelievable.
What are tickets going for and something like that?
Oh, man, the seats that I was in was like $3,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was in the good seats. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
hey, man, you said something, though. I never really thought about it like that. A lot of the guys that got into MMA because it come around, if it wasn't around, could have been guys that came to our business.
And they would have been. And the reason I say that is because, you know, to get into boxing, you have to start at a very young age, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, golden gloves, whatnot. To be a good professional wrestler, I mean, the psychology that goes into it, it's a mind, you know, trick in itself. And then you say mixed martial arts, man, I just have to have some testosterone. You know what I mean? And be mad at the world. And I can go out here, just getting out of the joint. And, you know, you don't need the education, a college education to go fight inside the octagon. And you know, and it's a great place for people like that. Don't get me wrong, because, you know, we all got to have a way to survive and a means in life to take care of our family. But I think, you know, being able to just jump in it, not having to have a whole lot of experience, kind of like on the job training. And, if I make it, I make it, you know what I mean? If I don't, we move on.
Yeah, but man, those guys are starting at an early age. I mean, because most of those guys are coming at least out of college programs from wrestling.
Well, you know, the elite, a lot of them, but the majority, if you go and do your research on those guys, a lot of those guys are just guys just looking for something to do, and a lot of them are just good at fighting, and they jump in there and they make good, but. You think about all of the Brazilians, you know what I mean? I mean, that being in that country, I mean, that's a way out.
They grew up fighting.
Well, they grew up fighting, but they grew up looking for a way out as well. Right. And that may be our way out, you know what I mean? And, so that's, you know, I look at it, you know, in so many different ways. The fight game is beautiful right now. From just looking for something to do, and a lot of them are just good at fighting, and they jump in there and they make good, but. You think about all of the Brazilians, you know what I mean? I mean, that being in that country, I mean, that's a way out.
They grew up fighting.
Well, they grew up fighting, but they grew up looking for a way out as well. Right. And that may be our way out, you know what I mean? And, so that's, you know, I look at it, you know, in so many different ways. The fight game is beautiful right now from every perspective, even the wrestling game.
I started getting a little bit more into boxing than I have been on the high level fights, just because with MMA, you know, you see a lot of guys, you see a lot of stand up in MMA. And sometimes the guys just stand and bang. But, you know, you're going to get some wrestling, you'll get some submissions, your jiu-jitsu. But I've gone back to boxing a little bit just because of the purity of the sport of two guys just with the dukes.
Yeah.
A right hand and a left hand. Yeah. It's the purity of boxing. So that's, and dude, I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. How much do you train boxing?
I've trained, yeah.
Okay, well, I tried to train a couple of years ago. It's for a movie part or something like that. And the dude says, hey, man, he goes, you want me to train you like an actor or an athlete? Of course, I said athlete because that's what I am. I ain't no actor. I stopped that shit a long time ago. And so what he was saying was, when we were standing there, and I'm Orthodox, so I'm sitting there with my left hand right here, and when I dropped my hands, he would whack the shit out of me on the left or right side of my head, right? Yeah. Whereas if I said actor, he would attack me.
Yeah.
So some bitch is teeing off on my ass. It's like, dude, you can only drop your hands a few times. It's like when the dude keeps slapping the shit out of you, you keep your hands up.
Oh, yeah.
My point is, dude, that was one of the hardest things to me was just keeping your hands up because it fatigued my anterior delt so damn much.
Yeah, that's why that's why with boxing, you know, for a 12-round fight, you know, you got to go and train, you know, 13 weeks, you know, straight. And that right there is I'm talking about running at 4:00 in the morning. I'm talking about putting yourself through something. They say, you know, in fighting, you know, if you train properly, the fight should be easy. You know, the fight is so much easier than the actual, you know, fighting. And I think that's what boxing is. It's a sport. I look at Sugar Ray Leonard, like you was talking about. I look at a guy like, oh my God, I thought I cut that thing off.
Only 2 beers.
I look at a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard, and to watch a guy like Sugar Ray, he's so fast, he's so quick. I was watching a video on YouTube, and he got in the ring, and there was this one guy wanted to get in and spar with him, and the guy thought he was, you know, was good, and you know he couldn't really hit Sugar Ray, and he got one in on Sugar Ray, and Sugar Ray was a little upset, and And Sugar Ray threw a shot at this kid. Bang! So fast and so quick, body shot, and the kid just folded like an envelope. I was like, wow, that's what a real fighter is compared to the average layperson. You go in and just say, for instance, you're a tough guy, and you see a boxer, an ex-boxer, just say, for instance, a Jerry Cooney, yep. And you think you can go and take that old guy. You go and try it, and you get beat up so bad, yeah. It's on the news and everything, because that guy is a professional fighter, and the things he the things he's forgotten is much more than you ever going to know. And I think, that's what boxing is. That's why it's so pure. That's why you love it so much when you see two guys stand up and go hand to hand contact. Unlike MMA, I mean, I love the sport. I love the art of MMA. But when two guys get on the ground and grapple and nothing's happening, and then the referee have to, get him up, and then the guy that's so tired, he have to take the guy down again just so nothing to happen, to stand back up. The guy end up just laying on his back because he's so tired, and actually, like, come on, come down here with me. That kind of stuff. I'm not too off into that, but I do have, a great love for it, because I've had some thrilling moments, just like the Jorge Masvidal Ben Askren, fight just a couple of weeks ago. It made me say, oh my God, that's how beautiful it really could be.
That's one of those holy shit moments. And boy, Ben Askren really got under his skin.
Yeah.
And he had studied him and come up with that high knee, flying knee, whatever the hell it was. Man. But let's get into a little bit more about what's going on with you, because since I talked with you, and that was a while back, you started up a podcast, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that now?
I've been doing the Hall of Fame now for about 4 months, but I was doing another one called Heated Conversation for like 2.5 years on another local radio station in Houston. And then, ESPN, they saw me, and they liked me, and so they brought me into their family, and I've been with those guys now for, like I say, about 4 months, and it's awesome being able to do radio Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night to a live audience, streaming as well. They can call in, from all over. I get calls from Iraq, Japan, Hawaii, all over, and it's such an amazing deal to actually be able to connect and let fans, I always say, get their piece of champagne wishes and caviar dreams and step inside the Hall of Fame.
But that's your podcast?
Well, it goes straight to the podcast, but the radio show is the podcast.
But it's live?
Well, it's live to the podcast, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How'd you hook up with Brad Gilmore, your partner?
Brad Gilmore is, he came into my office 7 years ago. He's 18 years old. He's a white kid with, rosy cheeks. Yeah, his cheeks, I don't know, his cheeks were so red that day when he came into my office. And he had a nice suit on. He was dressed real nice. And he was like, I want to get into the wrestling business, And I said, you're a good looking kid. I said, I could use someone like you. And he became a part of our family, a wrestling family. He was just a announcer, bringing the guys out, to the ring. And then he was doing such a good job a couple of years of that. And then I made him a commentator. And then he was doing a really, really good job with that. And then I got on the radio, and with the station that I was with prior to ESPN. And the first day they hooked me up with a guy, and I go, I could do this myself, because I didn't like the way our flow was. And so they let me actually bring Brad in as like an intern. And he started, just doing the show with me. Kinda, he would say something here and there. And then it just got better and better and better. And my thing is, I love working with young people. I love having young people around me. And the dynamic with Brad Gilmore and I, is like, the old cop and the young cop. Right. You know what I mean? And what really making a cool dynamic, so a 54-year-old black guy, former wrestler with a, 25-year-old white kid, who's in a hip hop group, and knows everything about black culture. So it's just a perfect fit for me to be able to catch, as well as Brad, for us to be able to catch every demographic and let everyone feel our show as well as listen to it at the same time.
Hey, we're sitting here in dressing room, we're talking, and we're at the Raw reunion in Tampa. What did it mean for you to come here? I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel being here? I mean, you and I, both same age, grizzled veterans, started and stopped. Well, you lasted longer than I did, but nonetheless, same deal. You're a two-time Hall of Famer. How and what do you feel now?
Man, what I love about this kind of stuff more than anything? It's kind of like a family reunion, just like a real family reunion. I like coming hanging out, seeing the boys, hanging, talking about old stories, whatnot, and just reminiscing. You know what I mean? We're still here. But what I don't see is, the way the business. Just say, for instance, if you and I would have walked in this dressing room in 1990 for a wrestling reunion, what do you think how it would have been? What do you think those wrestlers, how they would have been when you walked in that arena? You know what I mean? I don't know if you felt that way today, but I didn't feel that way. And maybe it's because they see me all the time. But I think, that's what's different more than anything is, the young guys really paying homage to the guys that paved the way, the carpenters that really put the foundation down in this business. And it's not about kissing up or anything like that. I was just talking to, a buddy of mine. I said, can you imagine if someone, one of the young guys said, man, Arnold Palmer sucks. You know what I mean? Man, Wilt Chamberlain, man, he was the worst player ever played a game. I don't hear that in any other sport other than our sport when I'm with social media. I don't know if it's social media that's changed the mentality of the young guys in the locker room. Now, don't get me wrong, not all of them. But I just think, the camaraderie between the guys that did it and the guys that's doing it now is far apart than it's ever been. I don't know. So? I don't know. I do. Like I say, not with all the guys.
But are you referring like saying like so and so sucks? Are you referring back to that match that happened in Saudi Arabia?
No, I mean, what do you mean?
Taker Goldberg.
Oh, that wasn't a great match.
No, there was an accident that happened because Goldberg knocked himself out. But through that, someone said, "Oh man, the dude, not so much." Kind of shot him down on social media.
Oh no, I didn't shoot anyone down.
No, someone else did.
Oh, I mean, you know what? Like that guy shot him down. But that's what. Not just that. And that's why I say we need to look into it more than just wrestling. And I think our young guys need to be educated on it is more than just wrestling, as far as guys that make it to the top level. I said Goldberg, he wasn't a guy that loved our sport or anything like that. He wasn't a guy that grew up watching wrestling, perhaps like you or I, but he got put in a position. And then, for a MMA guy to make that comment about Goldberg, who did make so much money, first and foremost, and then was, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, was the first guy that represented MMA.
Yeah.
He was the first guy.
Yeah.
That tried to put that sport on the map. And then to hear a guy knock him for having a wrestling match when, like I say, anything can happen in a wrestling match. In Saudi Arabia, in that temperature, no one knows how they're going to deal with that situation until they get into that situation. You could perhaps pass out in the middle of the ring in a situation like that under those conditions. And what are we going to be talking about then? Oh man, he passed out in the match. He can't even go, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
for us to put us down, we can't do that.
Oh yeah. But to me, when I had to watch him because I heard about it. And like the first 5-6 minutes was good. And he rang himself up on a turnbuckle. It was a shoot. He was basically out on his feet. And then I heard it felt like it was 115 degrees there, or it was.
Yeah.
And dude, when you're coming from, West Coast and all of a sudden you go into that, I mean, it was a fatigue, but it was a shoot knockout. I respect the fact that he tried to continue because anybody could just roll out. I mean, and just, hey man, take me out of here. So, that was like me when I got dropped on my head. I was going to finish that damn match. So I give him props for that. But, dude, sometimes bad things happen at the office. I mean, and all of a sudden you go out there, but to be ridiculed for it, man, I couldn't jump on that bandwagon. Bill's a friend of mine, And then just from a respect standpoint, I mean, whether he loved the business or not, dude had a bad day at the office.
I can't jump on the bandwagon easy because, like I say, he's one of us. He went out there and performed. And I say, you know, we know Taker. Taker's been in just about every situation you possibly can think of. Yeah. It's not a situation I don't think he's been in that he can't try to figure his way around it. And I said it. I don't think Goldberg has been nowhere near that kind of a situation. No. And when stuff like that happens, it happens. But I just do not think that our young guys have a right or a place to put down guys that have put in so much work in the business, as well as, you know, still putting in work, as well as, you know, it's millions of fans that have supported that one guy for so many years, and they were as disappointed as he was. Don't think that Goldberg wasn't disappointed in himself for going out and having a match.
He's beating
like
himself
that.
up.
Exactly my point.
But the dude that took a shot, got to understand, Goldberg drew some money.
Exactly my point. And until one of those guys like that start drawing money, I say you don't have a place.
And if the guy had drawn money, he would have never made that. He would have never made that statement.
But the thing is, Steve,
we'll see if he does.
You and I've been in the business. We've been, and like I say, maybe it's changed, and I understand that. I get it, but I don't know how many times have you said you didn't like a person or something through social media without, you know, having a valid reason for saying it. And it normally had to be something personal.
Right.
If you had something to say about him, it's not going to be about his wrestling or anything like that. Yeah. If you can't get over, kid, that's on you. Yeah. But I'm over, you know, but if I got something to say to a person, I'm going to say it in their face. I'm going to say it to them. I'm not going to say it on social media for the world. If I feel a certain way about a person, because it's not for the world to know, it's for me. Right. And when people put that kind of stuff on social media, it makes them look bad more than anything. And I just think, more importantly, our young performers, they need to understand what social media is really all about and how to really use social media if they want to make it in this business. Make some money with it. Yeah, make some money with it. But to be on social media calling people, this is not MMA. You know, after a fight, you call the next guy out. You know, it's not MMA. This is professional wrestling. And it's a code under that professional wrestling banner. I think it is.
I think so. Anyway. I mean, kayfabe may be dead, but there's stuff you kayfabe. I mean, or like you say in a man's face.
Some stuff stays in the life. You know,
I don't believe social media draws money.
You know, just like this here, Steve. Me and Batista, we had an argument. Okay, you heard about it.
Yep.
But not one time in any print, anywhere since that happened, that you're going to see where Booker T said, this is what happened. I said, two guys had a disagreement. It's a lot of testosterone goes around, and that's what happens. Guys fight. It's that simple. And now that's the story from me.
Right.
Now, anybody else can make it out what they want it to be. But if it came from me, it's quote. I was just asked that same question just a couple of days ago in Vegas about Batista and I. And I go, yeah, man, we mixed it up a couple of times, but Batista's out in Vegas. I mean, in Hollywood right now. He just got this new movie just came out, whatnot. You know what I mean? He's just done the thing with Guardian of the Galaxy. Man, I could easily try to put myself over, but I'd rather put him over. You know what I mean?
There's one under the bridge too.
It's even more so than that, Steve. He's one of the boys.
Absolutely.
He's one of the boys. That's why. That's it.
What's the state of the business now? Because a lot of changes going on. Eric Bischoff just brought in. Paul Heyman just brought in. You watch a lot of wrestling because aren't you still doing the kickoffs?
Well, I'm doing the kickoff shows, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're around it all the time. And like I said, yeah, they do see you a lot.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. And I was watching you before we did this podcast. So where is the business going? Do you like where the business is going?
You know what? It was time for a change. It was time for a shakeup. I mean, you have a car for 20 years, you know, the brake's going to start squeaking. You know what I mean? The air conditioning, you know, the Freon is going to be gone. I mean, you know, you're going to have to do some upkeep, so you're going to have to get a new one. And I don't think the business is no different. We've had the same blueprint for the last 15 years, I think. And I think the blueprint is run its course. And I think to shake it up, especially with having someone like Paul Heyman in that position, because I do know Paul Heyman is very, very astute. He's very knowledgeable at what he does. The guy's a genius in a certain sense. And I say that because he took a company of ECW guys, a bunch of guys, and I'm not to down or anybody or anything like that, but a lot of those guys wasn't the greatest workers, but he made them all look like stars. Every one of those guys was big time stars, from Balls Mahoney to, the Dudleys, all Raven, RVD, Sandman, 911.
Dude, it's kind of like attitude era. Because, like damn near the whole locker room was over, or it's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Dude, ECW had a Hall of Fame roster.
Man, everybody
he
in the
made
world.
Stars out of it. I know those guys were stars.
Everybody in the world knew who those guys were. Those guys were over, man.
But here's the thing, because they were so character-based. Yeah, the stuff in the ring, they did some outlandish stuff, but it was character-based.
It was the pageantry. And I said,
it was a freak show.
We were just talking about Macho Man Savage a little earlier. I had to, talk about him. And I say, Macho Man, he had the pageantry. You know what I mean? He was so over the top and so flamboyant. But when he went in the ring, you thought a man was in there. You thought a man was in there kicking somebody's ass, and it was unadulterated. It was as real as in raw you possibly can. You felt it, and that's a lot of that is missing from the business. That's what.
How do you get more feeling back into?
Well, that's what I was coming around to. That's what was so good about last Monday night when Bray Wyatt came in and flipped the switch.
Yep.
After doing the Funhouse, Fireflies, deal where the fans feel like, man, where we going with this? Where we going with this? Where we going with this? And boom, this is what we're going with.
Right.
And the introduction to talent coming in the way, they did it back in the day. I don't think that's, something that we can't do today and make people feel like, oh, is this guy coming in? Giving me a job match every week until I get ready to beat up somebody that's going to really fight me. I think we need to bring that back in a certain sense. The enhancement guys. It's so much from back then I still think could work today, and engage the fans to where, they get that same feeling that we had when we watched it back in the day. A lot of things has changed, but a lot of things are still the same as well. And I just think to be able to have someone, writing the script a little bit different, I think is what we need. I think the talent is there. I just think it needs to be managed properly.
The talent is here in the locker room. I wish they had the creative freedom that we did back in the day, because, man, I was an edgy character, and I didn't give a shit, and I had nothing to lose, and there was another place to work, so I could push the envelope and go out on a limb, and I did, and so was everybody else. So did you.
Yeah.
Not putting an indictment on the system. I'm just saying, man, it's just a different landscape.
Yeah.
It's a different playground that these guys and the gals are trying to play on.
It
ain't about me saying cuss words, dude.
No, I agree with that in a certain sense, but but from watching it, I disagree in a certain sense as well, because I was watching, I'm not going to say any names or anything like that, but I was watching a match, a month or so ago, and it was, babyface versus a heel, high priority. And within a 10-minute match, the babyface grabbed the bottom rope 3 times. The babyface grabbed the bottom rope 3 times. Now, if I'm a fan watching this from a psychology standpoint, I'm saying, please beat him. Get it over with. I want to see the next match. This guy's doing nothing for me. Me as a babyface, I'm going to figure a way out before I grab that bottom rope. I'm going to do something to make the fans believe in me from a psychologist. And I think that's what's missing more than anything. Psychology. It's a lot of moves being done, but the psychology of making the fans motivate the fans to act a certain way and do a certain thing, that part is missing. And I think that's what we did more than anything. When you did the stomp in the corner on a guy, it was to motivate the fans to react to certain. Now, if you did that stomp every 5 minutes in the match, it's not going to mean crapola. Right. But the way you did it, you motivated fans okay, guys, it's time to do your job. And I don't think we got enough of that. As well as, before you move to your next point, the guys these days, compared to the guys back in the day, the fans were going, Austin, Stone Cold. And now they're just going, this is awesome. They have no feeling about the guy that's in the ring performing. They just want to see him do the moves.
But just like you're just saying, every time you do something to elicit a response. Based on a response, you proceed accordingly to get another response. There you're telling your story. You're building it, and then there's that comeback, there's an explosion, there's a screw job with a banana peel and a straight-up finish.
Yeah.
So you're saying, what's up? But, okay, with everybody moving as fast as they are, how do you build back in the emotion? Well,
I think that's what we got to teach them that, because they don't learn it unless they're taught it. It's like a kid, Kid don't just come out of the womb and he's a racist. He's got to be taught that. A kid don't come out of the womb knowing how to fix a car. They got to be taught that. You know what I mean? So I think with our young guys, I teach it in my school. I know it works. I got a really, really good school. I put my school over, because it really is a good school, because I had, one of my students, she just did an interview last week, and it was with one of the local television stations where she had to ride around in the car with one of the local anchors, and they asked her, what did you take away from Booker T, more than anything? What do you learn from the school? And most responses, from a student would have been, oh man, he teaches us all the great moves, you know what I mean? He's, great at teaching us this. And her response were, well, Booker teaches you, the smallest little things. It might be, what not to do. It might be, why are you, over here and you should be over here? It's the little bitty things with wrestlers you teach them, and it has nothing to do with any of the moves, and I say that because Scott Casey taught me, when you take
this podcast for the latest breaking headlines on the AP News Minute.
Guys can be terrible at taking care of their health. Whether it's a knee injury, bad back, or something worse, guys are usually more comfortable rubbing some dirt on it than seeing a doctor. Hell, everybody does it. The same is true for erectile dysfunction. Studies show 70% of guys who experience ED don't get treated for it. Thankfully, our friends at Roman have created an easy way to chat with the doctor online about ED and get it taken care of. With Roman, there are no waiting rooms, awkward face-to-face conversations, or uncomfortable trips to the pharmacy. Roman lets you handle everything discreetly online. All you have to do is visit getroman.com/Austin and fill out a brief medical onboarding. Then just talk to a doctor and you'll get medication delivered to your door in discreet, unmarked packaging with free 2-day shipping. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, go to roman.com/Austin for a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. Find out what will work for you when it comes to overcoming ED. It is definitely worth your time. One more time, that's getroman.com/Austin for your free online medical visit and 2-day shipping. Check it out.
Hey, Jordan here. I know a lot of you create your own podcasts, and a lot of you already have one like me. I obviously love what I do. It's taken a lot of hard work to get to this point of success. You shouldn't have to pay fees for platform hosting, distribution, analytics, or fees to create a podcast. You need to be able to focus on producing the best show possible. Now, Podcast One, that's the network I'm on, they have Launchpad Digital Media, or Launchpad DM for short. So it's free, includes unlimited hosting, full control of distribution. You have access to a full dashboard with analytics. Again, totally free. You own everything, by the way. You own your content, you own your subscribers, no tricky stuff there. And you get your own show page on launchpaddm.com for people to listen to and subscribe to your show. It's the only hosting platform brought to you by the leading network, Podcast One. Podcast One will promote the site, drive people to discover your podcast, and if your show grows, you could even be invited to join Podcast One's all-star roster, which includes people like Adam Carolla, Caitlin Bristow, Shaq, Lady Gang, and of course, me, Jordan Harbinger. I'm there too. You also get access to their production and sales support. So with all this completely free, don't use other hosting platforms. Why would you need to? Learn more or sign up now at launchpaddm.com. And don't forget to check out The Jordan Harbinger Show.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Hey, man, I've always wanted to ask you this question, but I never have had you around to talk about it. And it was probably one of the worst produced television moments in pro wrestling, and that was the debut of the Shockmaster.
Yeah. And,
man, where was I? I think I was backstage because I was there live when it happened. Because I think Tex Slazenger, remember him?
Yeah, heck yeah, just saw him.
He went over to, you saw him?
Not him, but I saw his partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fred, after he had that moment when he just fell down and all, the Darth Vader mask with the glitter on it, terrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
The jacket, the robe, terrible.
Yeah.
The dyed jeans, terrible. The cowboy boots, terrible, dude. I watched it 10 times. The voice, because that was Ole.
Yeah.
And it wasn't synced up because Sid was trying to just talk over everybody. But anyway, Tex walked up to him and sat next to him. He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Maybe nobody was watching." And Booker, that is, and man, no disrespect to the guy because bad, sometimes shit just happens.
Yeah.
But that was probably the singular most funny moment, or dastardly or destructive for him, because it went nowhere. But I laughed my ass off the more and more I watched that, and then I could hear the guys because y'all were all either boomed or wearing live.
Yeah.
The most funny moment, or dastardly or destructive for him. Because it went nowhere, but I laughed my ass off the more and more I watched that, and then I could hear the guys because y'all were all either boomed or wearing lives.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sid's trying to yell over the top of everybody. Then finally, Davey Boy starts yelling because he knows he's got to introduce him, and he's trying to throw the sting. Sid's trying to jump back in. You and your brother just being cool.
I was froze.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden the shit goes down, the pyro goes off, and then you can hear, Davey Boy with that Manchester accent. He fell flat on his ass. He fell flat on his fucking ass. And, oh, man, you can hear you guys mumbling back here. Like, what were you thinking when that went down to try to maintain your composure?
I remember seeing his voice going, "I told you."
Yeah, he did. Oh, God, I told you. I told you. You're right.
That's what I remember, boy.
Country ass accent.
It's crazy, man, because, me and my brother, how we got, I don't know if you know how we got in WCW or not, but Sid was the reason we got in WCW. He brought us in. He called us down in Dallas, said he was going to get us in. And next thing you know, we in Atlanta. We was living in Sid's apartment as well at that time. And Sid was, he looked out for us. And then, for us to be in a match of that magnitude, first and foremost, my brother and I, we were like two flies on the wall. I mean, we really were. Because we get ready to do, pay-per-view in Houston, in the main event, our first time, we're like, wow, it can't get any better than this. And when that happened, I remember rehearsing it though. And I think, I could be wrong. That's why I got to take a little bit of the heat off of Fred. I could be wrong. But when we rehearsed that thing, which we ran through like a small rehearsal. The wall was very, very shaky. It was moving like back and forth. So they said, we got to put a little reinforcement on it. So they put a 2x4 going all the way across the bottom of it and didn't tell Fred about it. Yeah. And the pyro went off and Fred had that mask on and he bust through it and bloop, 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 bloop. There he went. And, of course, for me, like I said, I was young. Happy to be where I was, but I felt so bad for him, man.
I felt terrible for him.
When the hood came off and started rolling, glitter was flying off of it, and then he tried to regroup and he tried to find his way out of that. And from that point, it was downhill. Every time I see him now, I don't even mention it. I don't even mention Shockmaster, but he seems to make fun out of it now because every he do cuz and he had a mask there with him, but it had to be a bad night, man.
I felt bad for the guy, but it was when I watched it back over and over and over again.
But you go, who would think of something like that? First of all, that's what you got to think about with WCW back then. They would try anything, and when you first started this, I thought you was going to talk about my brother and I first debut, because it was just as,
what happened on your debut?
It was an infamous moment. with my brother and I, I don't know how they thought this was going to work on television in the 90s. But our first character was, we would call the Chain Gang. Two brothers that just got out of jail. and we was working for, Colonel Rob Parker. Rob Parker had paid the warden off to get us out. And we came in and on TBS and it was like, what the hell's going on here? The executives went crazy. And we have the match and we walk back through the dressing room and, Ole Anderson, they want to see you in Ole Anderson's office. So he goes to Ole Anderson's office and he goes, I should send you back to Texas. We like, wait a minute. This wasn't our idea. This was your idea. What are you talking about? He goes, but you guys got talent, but can you draw money? What? Put us in a freaking gimmick that not like two prisoners, we can make some money. So thank God that they didn't have social media back then, or that tape would be running around forevermore. My brother and I are coming in as the Chain Gang, two prisoners.
Do you remember back in the day when we was in WCW, and tell me if this is different for you, but I remember we'd go out there for TV matches. A lot of times we work in Center Stage, Anderson, South Carolina, Dothan, Alabama, the little towns.
Yeah.
But the way it was back then, and even going back to, we're here at the Raw reunion. We paved the way for these guys, the guys that paved the way for us. But man, we used to go to Memphis for TV, or they're at WCW, and they'd say, "Hey man, you got, let's say 12 minutes." And then the referee might give you this is the way I wasn't smart enough. They give you the Iggy like with a 1 minute go home. So none of my matches had a bunch of false finishes just because it was like, it was customary, or I don't want to say it was standard protocol, but that's how I learned it. Was basically a 30-second or 1 minute cue to go home.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the wherewithal, or did you give them a heads up, or were you? I wasn't bright enough to think of, hey man, by the time I start my comeback and do these false finishes, because we didn't plan things out that far in advance, so I was always going home on about a 1 minute go home.
Yeah.
Did you build in extra time for yourself?
Nah, man.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
though?
I would.
This changed.
That's one thing that I always, for me, I think because of movies. I never played sports or anything like that. Coming up before I got into wrestling, I love music and I love movies, and music always has a chorus, and then it has a certain point, and then it has this crescendo. Movies start the same way, then it gets hot, and then they had a car chase and whatnot, and then it goes to the finish. And I always thought about matches like that, so it's all based on timing. So for me, I was a dancer as well. So everything was always on time. So for me, I had to know exactly what time I was in a match. If I had 15 minutes, I need to know when I was at 10. I need to know when I was at 6. I need to know when I was at 3. So that's how I could tell my story. It was like a rapper rapping bars, so they got 16 bars, right. I had 24, but you ain't going to go too far past that. And that's the way I always thought with wrestling.
Now, once I got into the later years, and then obviously when I turned into Stone Cold, then I'd get referee time cues. Hey man, 5 gone, 10, 15,
Mm-hmm.
or hey boy, 10 left.
Yeah.
And then they start counting me down from there, because then I was building in that stuff.
Yeah.
But back in the old days, I wasn't.
Yeah.
So, but these days, it's we got down to a science now,
well,
and it's a whole lot of talent to go out there. And dude, work on live TV.
I think it's too much though. They make it too much of a science. They make it too hard on themselves sometimes, going out there trying to think too much. Because I say that because I remember one of the first matches I had here in the WWE, and it was like a big match, big pay-per-view match. And I was getting ready to go out the curtain, and Taker goes, "Hey man, take it all in, bro." And I wasn't thinking about that before I went out. All I was thinking about was getting out and getting to the ring. And I went out on the stage, and I stopped, and I just looked around, And I just felt that moment. Just looked at everybody, just scanned everybody, 50,000 people or whatever it was. I felt like I was in the moment right there, And I think, with wrestling, a lot of wrestlers these days, they forget about taking in the moment because they got a spot in their head and they don't want to forget it. So they got to hurry up and get to the ring. And as soon as the bell rings, they got to get to it. I remember having a match with Randy Orton, one of his first matches that he had when he made it to the main roster. And Randy came up to me about 2:00. He goes, Book, what are we going to do? And I go, we'll talk later, bro. 4:00, Randy came to me and he goes, hey, Book, what are we going to do tonight? And I go, I don't know, man. The finish, we know the finish. So let me get with you later on it. And, we'll go over it in a bit. And,
you're getting old school, putting them off.
5:30, 5:45. He came around. I said, bro, let me get a Red Bull in. All right, let me get one Red Bull in. We'll go over it. I'm going to go talk to such and such real quick. 6:30 roll around. I say, bro, I'm on my second Red Bull right now. I say, let me get this one down and then we're going to talk. We're in Gorilla. He goes, come on, Book. What are we doing? I go, we'll just talk about it in the ring. And we went out. We worked. Bing, bing, bing. Randy looked better than he ever have. Came back through the curtain and he comes up to me and he goes, is it that easy? And I looked at him and I go, it's supposed to be every night. And that's the last thing he needs to know from me as a professional wrestler. And that's the way Randy goes out to perform. I can see it now. He doesn't need to know what he's going to do. He just goes out and do it, to perfection.
But to me, what you're just saying to me, what we were just trying to discuss 20, 30 minutes ago, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I first broke in Dallas, I tell these stories a million times. I worked Nashville, babies dressed over here, heels dressed over there. Referee come give each guy to finish. You go out there and, man, I'm nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? No, you ain't going to do nothing. You're just going to do whatever he tells you to do.
And you got to figure out what to do as well.
Yeah, but the heels call the match. All I got to do is listen. So, shit, finally I realized that, I don't have to remember nothing. I go out there with zero pressure. So when I started calling my matches at a real young age in the business, only really a year in. Chris Adams was calling all my stuff when I was working with him. All of a sudden I go down to Tennessee to work for Jarrett. I'm driving to Evansville. I see that I'm working with Danny Davis, 15-year veteran, if not more. And so I didn't think of anything because I'm working with Danny Davis. I'm going to listen. So all of a sudden we get there, and I go up to Danny and say, hey, Danny, what are you going to do? He goes, I'll just listen to you. I said, no, Danny. I said, man, you're a veteran. I said, it's my chance to learn. He goes, no, I've been watching you. If you get in any trouble, I'll help you out. And so I went out there and called that match with Danny Davis, a 15-year vet, and a guy I've been in the business 6 months.
Wow.
You know how much that meant to me or how much I grew from that?
Yeah.
My point is to go back to what you're saying, man. Then you go out there and you're really reading the crowd, and you're working them.
You can feel it
because you're throwing out that bait.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they taking it or they ain't taking it. Okay, we're going here then. Oh yeah, we're going to continue here.
Yeah.
All right, now you know what? I'm shining up like a motherfucker, but man, I think now he needs to ground me down. Heat spot, couple, little comeback, some hope, back down, build up. Man, it come, and you're feeling it.
You're feeling it, opposed to just doing it.
That's the thing.
That's the difference. You got to be able to feel it. I tell you, I went to Ivan Putski's wrestling school. Ivan taught every one of us to wrestle exactly the same way, like him, and I didn't think that was a good recipe for success. So
strongman guy.
So exactly. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go against the grain. We had our first show. And it was on Richmond Avenue at this nice club. And my first match, I'm working Dusty Wolf, okay? Dale, a.k.a. Dale Wolf, a.k.a. something else Wolf, a.k.a. the guy with the mask on, the a.k.a. the guy who's never won a match on WWE TV, all right? And I, like I say, been trained by Ivan, just was to go out and beat guys up and just smash them. If they don't do something, they don't sell, you make them sell. It was one of those type of deals, right? So I didn't want to do that. And Joe Blanchard was a part of the school too at that time. I remember I went up to Dusty Wolf and I say, excuse me, Mr. Wolf, out of respect. Excuse me, Mr. Wolf. He goes, yeah, kid. I say, I'm going to be working tonight. He's like, yeah, kid, whatever you want to do out there, kids. You know how Dusty used to talk. And I go, no, man. I say, I just want to let you know, man, I've been watching you for years, man. I've seen you work with Savage, Hogan, Steamboat. I've seen you work with everybody. And I knew for him to have been in that spot, they trusted him to be in that spot, you know. So I say, if you could just guide me through, because he was putting me over. I said, if you could just guide me through this match, I say, I sure would appreciate it. He goes, kid, I'll make you look good. And I swear, we went out and we worked, bing. He made me look good. We had the fans going like nobody else in the arena, right? Nobody else on the card. And bing, big Savage elbow off the top. AK-47 is what I called it back in the day because I was GI, bro. And boom, I went back to the back. I was excited. And Ivan Busky came over and goes, Dad, you son of a bitch, that was the worst match I ever seen. Don't ever go out and do that to sell for these guys like that. And I felt so little, man. I shrank like to a little bitty, you know, like so small, you know. And he fucking walked out. And Joe Blanchard, he walked in, he looked at him, and he comes over to him, and he goes, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. That was the best match I ever seen a green kid ever have. Don't listen to this fuck. You know? And that brought me right back up because I was like, man, I know Joe Blanchard no more than he does, you know? So that's what that business was. I say, man, this guy's a veteran. I'm not going to go out here and try to, you know, do anything that this guy knows so much more than I do. He's been in the business 25 years easy. And it's my first match. Please guide me out of respect. And he made me look great in that match. And that's what you know what, in that match, I didn't have to think a whole lot. Another match, one more before I move on, was Killer Tim Brooks. I had to wrestle him one time and vice versa to calling out a lot of spots and not calling a lot of spots. Killer Tim Brooks, he set me up. He was like my second biggest match I ever had. Killer Tim Brooks, Unicorn Ballroom, sold out, 200 people. Killer Tim Brooks, he sat with me and we went over spot after spot after spot after spot after spot. I go to the ring. Well, Killer Tim Brooks, he goes to the ring. They introduce him. I go out as G.I. Bro and I got my flag. As soon as I stepped in the ring, Killer Brooks went to kicking my ass so bad. I was wondering what the fuck is going on, okay? Yeah. He ends up, throwing my flag, taking my flag and breaking it. And these are none of the spots. We didn't talk about any of these spots, and I'm wondering what's going on. Wondering if this old guy has snapped, right? He ended up throwing me out of the ring, rolling out, coming out after me, boom, blast me again. He goes under the ring and pulls out a 2x4. I don't know where he gets this 2x4 from. I'm still wondering what the hell is going on. I'm on all fours and he takes that 2x4 and he comes down, whacks right across my back, but works it on the floor at the same time. And but I felt it, bang. I go down and I'm looking up and I'm wondering what the hell's going on here. Shit carries me back in the ring. He goes all around the ring. The fans going nuts. He rolls in. He picks me up and he goes, okay, block this one. And I start coming back on him. Bing, 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 bing. And then he stops me some more. And the crowd freakers, they going nuts. Louder than I could ever imagine. And I'm thinking, just keep your composure. Just relax, Match goes on, end up hitting him with that AK-47 at the end of it. 1, 2, 3, I got in the back, and I'm waiting on him to come through because he was still out selling and got the crowd still going crazy. He walks through the dressing room, and I'm sitting there waiting because I knew I had screwed up somewhere in that match. And he just looks at me, and he goes, you're going to be okay, kid.
Wow.
That was a lesson of all lessons, man.
What'd you tell him? I mean, did you go, fuck, thank you?
That's all I could say.
Yeah.
Was, I still didn't know if I did wrong or not.
Right.
But he just told, because all I did was I didn't panic.
Yeah.
I listened. I followed. I said, let's see where this is going. You know what I mean? Because, this is a veteran here. Obviously, he got to be thinking of something, And I just went along with it. And it was a test, and sometimes, you got to know, what the test is in order to pass it. And a lot of times a lot of young kids these days just don't know what the test is. And they're not going to know unless they're taught it. Scott Casey actually was instrumental in teaching me it was going to be a lot of tests along the way, as well as a lot of guys told me it was going to be a lot of tests along the way, guys like Ox Baker.
So where did you start, drawing more from what Scott Casey taught you than from Ivan Putski? Because you learned from both of them, but obviously Scott Casey
I didn't think
that strongman gimmick.
I didn't think I learned anything from Ivan Putski other than, entertainments.
Gotcha.
You got to entertain. You got to be entertained. He was a great entertainer. Scott Casey taught me the little bitty things as far as what wrestling could be and what you can make it. Also, I was a kid. I don't know about you, but ever since I watched wrestling on television, I always knew what it was. It's like I always knew it wasn't an Easter bunny. It's Santa, okay? I always knew that. As a little bitty kid, as long as I can remember, I always knew that. And in wrestling, I always knew what it was, but I always knew we could make it too, because I saw the guys that came before me, how they made it, and then I got a chance to sit in the locker room with Ox Baker at the end of his career in Houston, Texas, at the Sam Houston Coliseum. And I went out and had a match, and it was a bunch of legends on the card that night. And I was probably the greenest kid on the card as G.I. Bro. And literally, we had a nice crowd that night, and everybody was G.I. Bro, G.I. Bro. They loved G.I. Bro, man. I was over like Rover, man, and I was green as baby crap. And I came back in the locker room, and Ox Baker, even more advice, Ox Baker said, "Kid, you got a lot of talent. He said, you can make a whole lot of money in this business." He said, "Man, you really can go." He said, "But let me tell you something." He said, "In this business," and that's one way, the reason I always thought the way I did throughout my career was one of the things Ox told me. He said, "In this business," he said, "you're going to come up against a lot of obstacles, okay? A lot of them." He didn't say what. He just told me that. He said, "But you," he said, "you got the talent, which the other." And I came back in the locker room, and Ox Baker, even more advice, Ox Baker said, "Kid, you got a lot of talent. He said, you can make a whole lot of money in this business." He said, "Man, you really can go." He said, "But let me tell you something." He said, "In this business," and that's one way, the reason I always thought the way I did throughout my career was one of the things Ox told me. He said, "In this business," he said, "you're going to come up against a lot of obstacles, okay? A lot of them." He didn't say what. He just told me that. He said, "But you," he said, "you got the talent, which the underlining word," he said, "to either go over it, around it, under it." He said, "But sometimes you just got to go straight through it."
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what Ox Baker told me many years ago.
Where was that? What happened to G.I. Bro?
What G.I. Bro actually, what G.I. Bro, I'm going to tell you, people didn't realize, people thought WCW was making a joke out of G.I. Bro, but Ivan Putski saw me with an army hat on in the gym one day, and he created G.I. Bro. But my thought process was, in 1990, when I was in the wrestling school, Sergeant Slaughter was almost going on his way out. So my primary objective was to literally take Sergeant Slaughter's place as the Army guy and move on, and keep it going. Didn't work out that way. But in WCW, I got a chance to do the character, just paying homage to, Scott Casey and Ivan Putski, and I wasn't doing anything at that time. And for me, the wrestling business, unlike a lot of people, in that time back then, it was just about having fun. It was just about going out and creating something. It didn't matter to me. I say, whatever I got, no matter what it was, I said, I want to make the best out of it I possibly can. And I didn't care what it was a lot of times. You know, I don't know, maybe because I was making money and I was a kid that, you know, the street kid that, you know, was like, okay, this is kind of cool to be able to make money and do this, you know. But it was always real to me at the same time. It was never something that I played with or, you know, thought it was a game or anything like that. I always wanted to, you know, I wanted it to be real, not for me, but for the fan that's watching.
What was the most fun part of your career?
You know, man, it's hard to say, but the King Booker stuff was fun. You know, I must say, because I got a chance to.
Because of the stage?
I mean, yeah, the pageantry. Yeah. To be able to really be able to, you know, go Hollywood and go Camelot and really make fans they either loved me or hated me. It was me literally in one of my Shaw Brothers production movies that I watched, you know, from, you know, the Majestic OST when I was a kid. And I used to go watch all of these movies and the characters, you know, the Shaw Brothers productions, you know, Run, Shaw, and I can't think of the other Shaw brother. They have this movie production, back in the day, and they've done so many movies, right? I don't know, countless movies. And all of the movies have almost the same actors in all of the movies, as well as the stories are almost the same stories, just different players and whatnot, different actors playing different parts. But that's what I was when I was King Booker. You know, I was literally the boss, you know, and everybody, you know, that go up against the boss, they normally realize, man, the boss is pretty tough. You know, even though he's the pageantry, he's got the robe and everybody, you know, hates him, you know, he's blowing kisses to people that don't want him. Man, he's still a bad guy. We got to figure out how to get him off the throne, you know. And in my mind, it was always, you know, how big we can make this night, you know what I mean? And so for me, the SmackDown Kingdom and the SummerSlam games and, you know, it just was beautiful time in my career, especially with my wife as well.
What about the grind coming up? Because, I mean, you didn't have it easy coming up, got into some trouble.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you get in the business and get on the road. And I remember when I first started off working for Jarrett, man, I was making $15, $20, $25, $35 a night. And I was driving my car with Dutch and Chris Champion, you know, riding, you know, and they was just putting gas in and it was running my wheels. And I couldn't afford nothing else. But what was the grind for you? And like, how'd you survive that? Man, you're sitting right here in front of me, 2-time Hall of Famer. You come from a hard background. What were you thinking when you were starving out there? You did the same shit I did.
You know, but I starved before though.
Yeah.
You did. And I think that's what propelled me, that when I got into wrestling, it wasn't like a job. It wasn't like, I loved it so much I was willing to do it for free and did it for free, you know. I didn't look at wrestling like it was going to be my way out or anything like that. But I said I want to be like one of the best wrestlers. I say, you know, I want to be one of the best entertainers that ever. It's a saying about me being top 5. Okay. Now, people, the other guys that heard me say top 5, I would say top 5 workers. I would never say wrestlers, because I never looked at myself as a wrestler one day. I always looked at myself as a performer. And to be a performer is, you know, a Camelot. So when I was coming up, you know, I found a place that I could do Camelot, you know, and, you know, I was willing, you know, my first plane flight, I had never been on a plane before, and I was on my way to Japan. The first time I ever been on a plane, I'm on my way to Japan. And I was like, wow, this is freaking cool. You know, what the hell? And then I get to Japan and I got a 6-day-a-week job back at home. And I'm getting treated like a star in certain places, even though I wasn't getting paid a lot of money at that time, you know, but it was so cool. And then I come back home to my regular job and I work my regular job, and then I freaking went to Korea, you know, and I was like, wow, I'm a star over here. And then I go back to my regular job. Then I went to, the Virgin Islands. I mean, St. Martin, the Virgin Islands, Dutch colony. And that's when I realized something was going on, you know, because when I was in the Virgin Islands and I had a 6-day-a-week job back at home from that television I was on in Dallas, I was like a god in the Virgin Islands, a black man on the island that's on television, that's representing. Oh my God. I got back home, you know, and I was like, man, this is awesome, you know, and I was still working that job. And then my brother and we got the call from Sid Vicious to come to WCW. And what's crazy, I got in WCW, Steve, and I still had that job at home. And I still would go do work the WCW TV taping and go back to my job. Even though I had a contract with WCW, I still didn't want to lose my security of having my job at home. And then everything started rolling so good. I say, man, I think I need to quit my job. You know, so
hobby killing you. Yeah, making a lot of money.
Exactly. So it was amazing. You know what I mean? But I had some good people. A guy by the name of Bruce Kasarch, man. He's my boss, man, and you know he was there for me 100%. And you know he financed me to go to the wrestling school and all of those places that I went to, Japan, Korea, you know, the Virgin Islands, all those places. He allowed me to take off work to go and still keep my job at home, you know, so, you know, and then I, you know, of course, like you say, my background coming out of prison, he was the guy that trusted me and I earned his trust. I gained his trust. You know, it wasn't like he just trusted me. You know, I really put myself out there to show him, hey man, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to, you know, for you to trust me. You don't have to, you shouldn't trust me. You know what I mean? And, when I did that and he, you know, put out there and tried to help me as much as he possibly can. That's why, you know, now, I just talked to him last week. That's why now, when I see a kid in that same position, I'm going to try to help them. You know what I mean? If they want to help themselves, especially if they show me that, hey, you know, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You know, a lot of young people these days, they just want handout. They want to feel like somebody owe them something. You know what I mean? If you've gone through something, you put yourself in position for people to think a certain way about you. Trust me, it's on you to actually make it right all over again. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Dude, when you went in and you did, 19 months?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with that?
I laughed every day, man, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. I've always been able to find laughter.
You have.
You know, throughout everything. You know what I mean? You know it. I mean, that's one thing that I've always been able to do. In my 19 months there, I didn't get in any trouble. All the COs, they like me. All of the inmates, they like me. I had no problem. I was very well respected, you know, my whole time I was there. And, you know, I did it and I walked in and I walked out. And then, you know, the guy motivated me on the way out too, you know, because I tell that story, you know, the CEO on the big white horse with the big cowboy hat, you know, he just happened to be of Caucasian descent. But he goes, I'll see you when you get back. And, that motivated me even more.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then when you were in there, did you just say, God damn, what was I thinking? What were we thinking?
I found myself, I've said that many times. I said, man, how did I end up here? Man, how did this happen? Because I had never been in jail before. I had never been in trouble before with the law at all. And the first time I end up in trouble, I end up in prison, behind prison walls. And I go, well, how did this happen? You know, but I knew I was wrong, first and foremost, as far as what I was a part of. And I knew it. I found myself in a position where I had to pay for it. And you used to watch Beretta.
Yeah.
Back in the day. What was the line?
Don't do the crime if you ain't got the time.
Damn right.
That was a good show.
Don't do the crime.
But then he ended up.
Yeah.
At the end of his run, you know, when something happened to his wife.
Yeah.
It's very ironic.
He wanted to do the time. Yeah. But no. That is to say, you know, I didn't, you know, I didn't feel like I should have had to go through that experience. And perhaps if I was another kid somewhere else, I probably wouldn't have had to go through that experience. But I think that experience changed the person who I am today, and it really made me who I am today. I don't think I would be talking to you if I hadn't had that experience. I know I wouldn't.
Really?
You know, because I learned so much being in there from a lot of the inmates. You know what I mean? It's a lot of knowledgeable guys in there, man, that's in there for a long time.
No,
man.
but not to cut you off, but I mean that's you're like, okay, well, how smart are you if you got caught? But there's a lot of damn street smarts in there.
Oh, man.
And a lot of tough lessons.
Well, I mean, I learned, like I say, it's a lot of smart guys in there too, that don't want a lot of young guys to make the same mistakes that they did as well. So I remember I got, you know, I remember one of the guys told me, he said, man, when you get out of here, man, that's the way he talked. He goes, you know, bro, young blood, he said, don't think you can't do whatever you want to do, young blood. He said, man, if you act like it 10 times out of 10, they're gonna think you know how to do it, man. If you act like it, man, just go with it. And then I was like, man, you know, that's you know, that might be right. You know what I mean? And I remember the brother telling me that. And I was working at the warehouse, and this dude that worked, that was the owner's buddy. He was an actor, and he was in town, and he goes, hey man. He saw me and said, man, you might want to go read these lines for this movie, man. It's, you know, right over, Parkway, you know, and just go over there, at this hotel. And I go, man, I've never done that before. I mean, I'm just out of prison. He goes, man, just go read the lines, man. I was like, all right, man, I'll try it. Boom, I get in my old 79 T-Bird beat up, dust, you know, wheels falling off of it. And I roll over to this hotel. Never did this before in my life. Walk into this hotel room, tell them who I was and why I was there and who sent me. All right, take a seat, whatnot. Next thing you know, I read the lines. It was for a Chuck Norris movie. About a month later, they called me and told me I had to roll. And it was the first time I had ever did it. And I was like, you kidding me? I could not believe that I got the role. I actually, at that point in time, something had happened at the warehouse, and I was working 7 days. I had to open the store and close it, and I couldn't get off for the week that they needed me for that role. And so I couldn't take it. But it let me know that I could do anything if I wanted to, if I put my mind to it.
God damn.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things I could continue on about, but we got to go out here and see what they want us to do on live TV tonight. And I told you I was off my rhythm because you get here, man. I was at the hotel last night. Ric Flair was telling stories.
As usual.
I'm drinking. He just sitting there telling stories, but I don't know how many more times I'm gonna get a chance to hang out in person with Ric Flair, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. And I'm just sitting there on his right hand shoulder, man. And his wife's right in front of me. He's telling stories, and Medusa was there, London Blaze, and a couple other cats. And, you know, I'm on a learning tree, and I'm hearing a lot of stories I heard before, but a lot of stuff I ain't never heard about. Right. Back in the Jack Briscoe, tough guy named Jerry Briscoe, you know, the whole crew talking about Harley Race. And then finally, man, I had to tap out, and I went up to my room, and I said, man, I got to have one more. I'm going to go back down. And Flair was gone. Well, on the way down, I was on the 6th floor. We stopped at the 5th floor. And the door opens up, and it's Ron Simmons. And we're just looking at each other with his look. And I beat him to his own line. I said, damn. Dude, we hugged each other for at least 30 seconds. It was, if you'd have been somebody walking by, you'd have thought these two guys were long-lost lovers or something. And we were giddy with laughter.
Oh, man.
And so we rode down, and then Mark Henry was there, Boogeyman was there, Godfather, Jesus Christ. Everybody started coming in, and we were just over telling stories and trading. But anyway, so I had a good time, and I was a little off point today, so I told you I was going to be. I'm so excited to be here to see everybody, and I got a chance to talk to some of these young bucks and some of these gals and these new people. Mm-hmm. Like as we were talking in the podcast, I don't want to come off like a grizzled veteran. I love the business so much; it's hard for me to contain my enthusiasm, and I just want everybody to have as much fun as we did, and to make as much money as possible, because in any business situation you put yourself in, that's what you should aspire to do.
Bottom line.
And as you and I said, way back in the day, oh man, I do this for free. Yeah, it's fun to say that, but in reality, the business aspect of it is learn the business, make as much money. But
bottom line,
I get excited about these kids, and sometimes I'm judgmental, and I got my opinion, and I think Triple H said it. Kind of hit the nail right on the head one time. He goes, everybody thinks their generation was the best.
Yeah.
And I can agree with that. I can see his point, because we did what we did. But for me, the best stuff was mid '80s.
Yeah.
So that was my high point.
Man, I what I do is I show my students a match of today, and then I show them a match from '85. I showed them a match with Jake Roberts and Steamboat from '85.
Yep.
Oh my God. You thought it was pandemonium, man. It was so real. The crowd was, they wanted to just jump in the ring. That's how bad, and then I show them a match from today. And I say, which match did you like best? Which match you thought was the most compelling? And they always pick the 1985 match. And I try not to be that guy like yourself. I don't want to be the old guy that's bitter about, what the young guys are doing. And I don't ever want them to think that I'm bitter about what the young guy generation is all about right now. I want them to know that I'm here for them. I want to push them to the next level. I want them, like you just said, to know exactly what we knew, exactly what it took to make it to the top level of this business. And you don't slip on a banana peel and make it to the elite level in this business. I don't care how good of a wrestler you are, because I've been around a lot of great wrestlers that have had so much more talent than I've had throughout my time, and you have as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're one of the worst guys on the crew.
But to the fans, you was the best in their eyes that they had ever seen in their lives. And that, you don't slip on a banana peel figuring out how to do that. You have someone like yourself teach them how to become that. Like I say, when I watch Stone Cold Steve Austin, I see gorgeous Gary Young. I don't see Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course I see Stone Cold Steve Austin, but when I see you move, I see gorgeous Gary Young. I see his blueprint of his thought process as well. You know what I mean? And you didn't learn that you didn't just find that on your own.
No, big influence.
You say, I'm stealing all of that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it work for me.
And walking and closing up, but walking around here, I hope that, man, because I've been grabbing guys over here, and when the women will come over here, I just say, hey, and I hope some of the tidbits of information that I've shared with some of the talent in this gathering today have been some of your Ox Baker moments, or I hope that I've been able to do that, because I'm saying, hey man, try this or check this out.
Yeah.
And the answer is not all the same for everybody.
Yeah.
But if someone takes something away from my being here and can apply that and help him down the road, like some of those cats help you, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. That's what I try to do too, man. Same thing, man. It's all about the young guys, man.
What you got to talk about? Tell people where they can find your podcast, your radio show. You're 97.5.
Yeah. I'm 97.5 in Houston, of course, but streaming at BookerTLive.com every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night from 9 to 11 Central Time, as well as Booker T5X on Twitter and Instagram. As well as, check out my Reality of Wrestling, which is doing, really, really awesome right now. And, check it out on Fight TV every Sunday, streaming at 2 p.m. Central. So, that's where I'm at each and every week.
Appreciate it, Buck.
Oh.